What's going on, everybody? This is Drew here. I want to welcome y'all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is a Phoenix Down 128.1, and we are continuing our playthrough of Greedfall. Today I have with me Matt.
Hello.
And, question. What is Greedfall? Why is it called Greedfall?
Well, when you get to the end of the game, you'll find out that really Malachor was caused by greed, and it caused the downfall of this whole civilization.
Oh, man. You say that as a joke. But why do I have a sinking feeling that that's like the metaphor that they're going for? Greed has made the fall,
people
the fall of man. Exactly.
corruptible.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like, why do they call it Dead Space? You know? The greed has fallen. We have entered Greedfall.
I don't know, man. I'm really liking this game, and I don't know why. Because when I think about this game, sometimes I think it feels bland.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I pick it up, I'm like, oh, I need to do a couple more things. I'm not going to put it down until I do a couple more things. And that has turned into me putting a lot more time into this game than I thought I would, or if not more time, the time seems to pass much more quickly than it does in some other similar games. I don't know what it is about the game, but every time I pick it up, a lot of times I'll pick up a game and I'll be like, all right, I want to play this, but 15 minutes in, maybe my mind starts to wander. I'm like, yeah, I want to play this, but I also want to watch something on TV, and I also want to organize some crap in the office. But this game, I feel like I can't put it down. All of a sudden, I'm like, all right, now I need to put it down and do something else. And I can't point to what that is exactly, but it's been a little strange with this game.
I mean, you basically described how we felt about Bound by Flame, too.
Yeah.
Bound by Flame was not necessarily a good game. It was fine, but I kept playing. It had charm. I guess that's the best way to put it. It has that little engine that could to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is definitely on a bigger scale. I feel like this game is twice the game of Bound by Flame. But it has that same kind of, small development team charm, Not the greatest, but it's got something going for it, Yeah.
And as much as sometimes I feel a little bit like there are things I'm doing that don't matter that much, sometimes I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to finish this thing up, and it turns into something, if not explicitly interesting, at least something where I'm like, oh, all right, I accomplished something.
Yeah.
I've done something. Like, in this last playthrough, I got so much more familiar with my character and gear, and just generally, like, I feel like I'm more comfortable playing the game now than I was after the first session.
All right, so explain that to me.
Mainly because, first thing is, up through the first play session, all of my gear has slots on it, but I could not do anything with those slots.
Okay.
So I had to just pause it and be like, how do I add all these buffs and whatever to my gear? And they're like, well, you can't do it until you have level 1 crafting.
Right.
I'm like, all right, well, I don't have any crafting in my capability.
Yes.
I'm a mage. So I added level 1 crafting, and I thought it was going to be like, all right, now you can do this, but now you're going to need to go on 47 quests to get the right materials. But I was able to upgrade every single piece of gear I own without buying or collecting a thing the minute one after getting that crafting ability.
So how did you get that crafting ability?
I think it was a level up.
Oh, so you just put a point into it?
Yeah, I just put a point into it.
Okay.
Which I also was really happy to discover that that's not the only way to get points.
Yeah, because you can equip certain gear that has that ability on it.
Yeah, but that's where things happen really fast for me, because my ability to craft all of a sudden, not only is all of my gear more powerful, but I also got more other abilities with that because of the extra points I got just from upgrading my gear.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, I went from like level 0 up to like level 3 immediately, and my character was just a badass because all of my gear was more powerful, all of my abilities were more powerful. I did buy a mace, a nicer mace, and I was able to upgrade that immediately. But the fact that I had all the ingredients I needed to upgrade, I mean, I guess I've killed a lot of wild bears, so I had a lot of materials.
Yeah.
But everything. It wasn't like I was able to upgrade one thing and I had to make a hard decision. I immediately upgraded everything. Not only that, but through a couple of other levels, I was able to get a better evasive technique. So it's like the shadow dash.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, I feel like it was only, and again, maybe it's the weird sense of time while playing this game, but it felt like only 15 minutes. I went from struggling to play the game in any sort of melee fights to all of a sudden being a badass. I can hit way harder. I can evade way better. My magic lasts longer. Everything was just all of a sudden better, faster, and easier. And it was just a really cool couple of play sessions.
Well, maybe I need to start doing that.
I mean, between all that, between all the character quests I did, I'm like, I know my character better. I know my other characters better. So I didn't actually play the story at all in this play session, but I put so much time into everything else that I just feel a lot more into the game.
So, let's talk about some of those quests that you did. I there's one side quest I want to mention, which I did with some of these natives that were having the religious fanatics kidnapping them and trying to, I guess, convert them, but then, killing them too.
I like, I don't know how this was organized, but we said last week how a lot of the side quests seem to be character quests. Well, at this point, the character quests are actually a pretty small percent of all the side quests I have open, and it's interesting that they group them. It's very explicit, like this is Siora's quest or this is Petrus's quest, but there's also there's a whole group of side quests around that. It's called the Children of Tearfredi.
Yeah.
So I don't. It doesn't sound like that's the group that this side quest that you're talking about was in. But I like that you can almost pick the type of side quest you want to do, or you can immediately see what type of side quest you're intending to do.
It feels like the side quests are grouped in a way that are about the factions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So though this side quest is all about the knots, this side quest is all about the religious guys, and so it makes you explore more of the factions. I feel like this game is leading you down a road of doing quests for certain factions more than it is doing quests for your party members. And if we think about it, every party member that we have is part of another faction.
Yep.
So
you may be forced to make some decisions as to who you want to remain favorable with.
Right. So I ended up doing that side quest, and I helped the natives because I cannot stand those religious. How do you pronounce it? Therame. It starts with a T. Teleme. I can't stand those guys.
Yeah.
They
it's
come
funny,
off
I haven't had any interaction with them. I also can't stand them, but they haven't been too big of a thorn in my side yet.
So I ran into him a little bit more because I think I did what I thought was a main story quest. So I continued the quest about the mural that we found, the ancient mural.
Yeah.
And you did this too because you talked about the boss that goes underground. Well, I fought that boss. I had to go find where some other ancient murals were. There was like a ruins that you could go to, and that's where we fought that boss.
I struggled a little bit with there being a magnifying glass on the map and my saying, how do I search this area? What's the button for searching? I thought it was going to send out like a pulse or something. How do I search? I couldn't figure out how to search. And then I'm like, oh, there is no search function. You just need to literally walk around and look for something. And it's almost always going to be a chest of some sort with a reddish-orange glow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So once I knew that, I'm like, oh, all right, I'll just keep wandering around until I find it. But it's funny, I was like sitting there, I'm like, I don't know how to search. And if anyone had been standing next to me, they would have just been like, well, how would you search in real life? Just walk around until you find it. I'm like, okay, I thought it was gamier than that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's pretty simple. Just find the thing.
It feels to me like the same way as when I was sitting on the overworld map, and I'm like, how do I zoom in? I can't figure out how to zoom in.
Yeah.
And the answer is you don't.
You don't. So you go to a different tab.
Yeah.
Trust me, dude. I ran into that far too long. But yeah. So doing that quest, we found these ancient like texts that were basically talking about the people who first arrived on this island, which were actually part of our faction. They were part of the Congregate of Merchants. What is it called?
The merchant. It's not the Merchant Federation. It's the
Congregation of Merchants, right, or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that.
It's the merchants, basically. That's our faction. We're like, oh, so these ancient people who came and built these towns and cities that are now ruins was part of our people.
Well, and they make a big deal about that. They're like, actually, we were here maybe even before these natives were here.
Yeah. Or maybe the natives, that's what we turned into.
Yeah.
So, we're like, okay, we need to go tell Constantine about this. He's not going to be happy about it, though. Because, well, we did a lot of bad things whenever we came to this island. Probably makes our name look kind of bad. But I go and tell Constantine, and he's like, all right, well, let's figure out how did we get here. Well, obviously we probably got here by the knots because they're the sailors. So let's go talk to the knots. So I go and talk to a admiral. And the admiral's like, well, you need to. We can't give away our secrets, is what they said. They've got some secrets to hide. And they're kind of feuding with the Taleme guys, the fanatics. So we have to kind of like settle between them. So I go and meet with the cardinal queen or whatever her name is. She's like the head
Mother
of
Cardinal?
the mother cardinal. I meet with her and her kind of right hand man, and he's like, yeah. He says, are you guys doing something with the knots? Because there was some knots that got kidnapped, basically. And they're like, no, we're not doing anything with them. But the knots do use this special type of magic that we don't like. It's very heathenistic. I'm like, okay. So we go talk to the knots. Knots are like, that guy, he's just crazy. They all think that everything that we do is against God, and this, don't listen to the ravings of a madman. I'm like, okay, well, we got to at least look into this. So I have to sneak into the Knott's warehouse to see if I can come up with something. And yeah, I got caught while sneaking.
Oh,
And
was this the mission where you need to make a sleeping potion?
I didn't have to make a sleeping potion.
Hmm.
I had to get into the warehouse to find some documents about their magic. And when sneaking around, I got caught and then ended up fighting a bunch of Knots and lost like 3 reputation with them. And I found some messages that were very secretive, like they can't find out about this sort of stuff. And that's where I stopped. Essentially, was there because I'd already played a lot, and I did some side quests and stuff. Like that's the thing is like doing a side quest in this game is no easy feat. There is like a lot of running around, a lot of time management. Like that quest I said with the natives and Teleme guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably an hour's worth of stuff.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in the last week I said, all right, I'm just going to finish up all these character side quests, and then I'm going to do one main story mission, and I'll call that good for this recording. And then I'm like, hours and hours later, I'm like, yeah, I'm not even going to finish up these character side quests.
So which character side quest did you do?
Well, I went through and I did Siora's one to find her mother, because I hadn't done that one yet.
Yep.
I spent a lot of time with Kurt, which was kind of cool. I don't know if you've done any of his.
I have not.
He basically says, you know, my job is to protect you, but it's also to protect Constantine.
Yeah. These are bodyguards.
Yeah, he's like, and there's a weird thing where I don't really know any of the guards, so I have a recruit I want you to vet because I trust you, and you know, if you like him, maybe we can get him assigned to Constantine's guard, and then we'll have a man on the inside. And you end up going on a pretty long quest line here, where you go to find that recruit. It turns out he's dead.
Oh.
And you're like, what happened? And they're like, he drowned in the river. He got drunk and drowned in the river. And Kurt's like, this is bullshit. There's no way he got drunk and drowned in the river because A, he doesn't drink, and B, he's a good swimmer. So it doesn't make any sense. So you have to talk to the guard, you have to go find the body. You find the body, it turns out that he's got bruises all over his body, so it doesn't look like he drowned. And then you go back out and you talk to the medical examiner, and he's like, what, you're like, we know you lied. He's like, look, I know I lied, I've never done this before, but I was threatened by some captain, and Kurt's like, what's going on here? I need to figure out what's going on. So then you go talk to like the captains of these other guards, and then it shifts, and now you're looking for the people who were overseeing this recruit, and it turns out they were operating like a stealth arm of the guard that they call like the Shadow Squad or something like that.
Are these people related to the guy who was strong-arming the merchants?
That still is kind of happening, but these are like, so you don't know that at this point. You're like, are these people good? Are these people bad? What is this shadow group? And it turns out they're operating a camp. You have to like head off into the mountains, and it turns out that there's 2 of like the 11th guard and the 6th guard are out there, and they're working together, and they're hand selecting all the best recruits, and they're basically going on secret missions under the the military organization that they have, but they're operating kind of outside of the normal laws.
Sounds like Black Watch. It's an Overwatch reference, but yeah.
Yeah, and so you end up talking to all these people. So the two captains, and then a bunch of the individual people that are training, and everyone's like nervous to talk to you. So I haven't actually finished that line, but it it goes in some strange directions, and Kurt's basically like, I'm really not happy about all this, but maybe there is something good that's coming out of this. But what kinds of missions are you going on? So I think that my guess is that they're ending up doing all like the Black Ops missions and probably some not great stuff with the natives, but haven't quite got that far yet.
Gotcha. Anybody else you done?
I did Vasco's, but his first section wasn't terribly long. It was basically building off of what he had said and what I actually really liked when you leave kind of the original settlement, and he says that, hey, I was also given to the Naughts, and I'd like to learn where I came from. So you kind of have to do some sneaking around there also, and track down his family, and you find out that his family name is like Darcy.
Okay.
And that's about it. He basically just says, "Thank you." Actually, this was the mission where you need to sneak in and get some information. So I had to cook up some sleeping potions.
Gotcha.
Which haven't put any points of any kind into science, so I can't make explosives, I can't make sleeping potions, so I have had to resort to essentially buying everything.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I figured out who his family was, and he was really appreciative, and there's certainly more to that storyline that I haven't done yet.
Did you feel like there was more to Siora's storyline too? It just kind of ended.
There certainly will be. There must be.
Yeah. Because like these like special native people showed up.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, we're running the stuff now. They're like, whoa, who called you? Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah.
How about Perdius?
Yeah, I did his Petrus. Is it Petrus?
Petrus, excuse me. I thought it was Perdius.
Yeah, I did the first section of his as well, which was kind of cool. Did you do any of his?
No, I haven't. I haven't even used him. The only thing I did was run into a bartender that looked exactly like him.
Yeah. Yeah. Even my character, actually, I have like a Van Dyke on my character, so there's a lot of people styling themselves similarly.
I mean, this dude was literally his model. Like, I showed you the picture.
Yeah.
Is that not him?
Yeah, it looks like him, yeah.
And I was just like, really, guys? I mean, I get it. You can reuse character models for NPCs, but not the main quest guys, not your party members.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I was like, because, Chad sent that email saying, who's going to betray you? And all of a sudden I see, I see one of my party members as a bartender, and I'm like, whoa, what is this double life you're leading?
Yeah. My favorite thing about Petrus is his voice. It is very gravelly.
Yeah. So what was his quest line about?
His quest line was interesting. I forget exactly how it starts, but he basically says, we need leverage on the Mother Cardinal.
Yes.
So let's go find some dirt, essentially. And you go to San Mateus, and you find out that there's a lot of shady things happening in the bars, and there's fights. You find some letters in her back room, so you end up tracking down some giant like orgies.
Oh boy.
And it turns out that I don't think we know for sure, but it seems like she's maybe funding them.
Gotcha, running the brothels.
Yeah, like hiring. So you find like an earring down there, and then you're like, all right, well, let's go to the brothels and get them to tell us what's happening. And throughout the course of that, you're like, yeah, we think Mother Cardinal might be this this lady. They're like, we nobody uses their name, so we don't know if this is who you're talking about. But there's a lady who comes always in a green cloak. Also, there's somebody who calls themselves Candy Cane. And so you end up tracking down this kind of shady character, Candy Cane, and
Candy Cane.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Joyride. You remember that movie?
Joyride.
Yeah. Paul Walker and oh God, what was his name? Steve Zahn.
Oh, sure. I don't think I've seen it.
On a road trip, and they mess with a truck driver because they get this CB radio, and they're messing with a truck driver pretending to be a woman. And the truck driver, like, it basically turns into almost like the Hitcher, or like the truck driver is like following them, and they don't know which truck driver it is because it's over a CB radio. And the guy who's doing the voice of the truck driver is oh no, it's this Wild Bill, Buffalo Bill. What's his name? From he was in Monk too. What's his name? Levine.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, that guy. He's doing the voice of the guy, and their CB handle was Candy Cane, and you know that guy's voice. So he's like, Candy Cane, like that. I say that to my wife sometimes, and she tells me to shut up. That's all I can think of. Sorry, tangent.
Yeah, it's a Candy Cane for sure. So that's basically the end of that first section, and then I think I started the second one, but I was like, look, if I just do this is all I'm doing for the whole session.
So I'm trying to think, like, can you start the next sessions? Because like that's the thing, is like Siora's is like done, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't have a Siora's quest in my queue anymore.
Right. So
I was able to start Petrus's, like the second phase of it, if you will.
Right.
And I think I have Vasco's second one in my queue. But I assume that they're kind of locked so that you can do, the first phase in the first part of the game, and then the second phase in the second part, so that you're not progressing them faster than you're progressing the story.
Right. I would assume they probably play a part in the main story, I guess.
Yep.
And there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Every time I go back to Constantine, he's looking worse. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
And they mentioned that. They're like, are you being poisoned?
Is it the early stages of Malachor, presumably?
Possibly. So here's my thing. And I don't know if this leads to anything. I got lost. So I have not used Perdius at all in my party. He's basically just stayed off camera. And it was to a point where I had forgot what his name was, because during that quest for the murals, and you're trying to figure out more about the religious fanatics, the quest says talk to Perdius. Okay? Petrus, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't, but I was in the Constantine's like manor or whatever, and the quest marker was right there on the ground floor at the the entrance to the manor. Okay. Mm-hmm. I ran around this thing looking for this dude who is supposed to be in my party, obviously, but I didn't know at the time. I was like, oh, I can't find this dude. So I ran around this entire mansion, went down into I found a locked door for like the servants' quarters. Then I ran back upstairs, went to the third floor. I found a key for the servants' quarters. And so I ran back downstairs to see if I could unlock that door. Well, guess what? I can't find that door anymore. And I'm thinking, why is this here? I feel like there's something here. Maybe it's just a side quest. Maybe it's just maybe I just find a note or something like that. But I was thinking, there's a reason why I'm able to find this key and unlock this door. Now I can't find the door because I'm an idiot and I can't find anything in this damn manor. But yeah. I want to go back and figure that out because I feel like maybe I'm going to find out something either about Constantine or about his staff. So I kind of want to go back and look at it, but I haven't went to it yet because I was like, I don't really feel like going through the basement of this manor again because it's huge and it takes forever.
Yeah.
And then I realized, Petrus. Right, Petrus is. I have to go talk to Petrus at my, at camp or something, and talk to him there to continue the quest line. I just started going with the quest line. But yeah, that's one of the things I did want to mention was that Constantine looks to be getting ill of some sort.
Yeah.
So
yeah, most certainly.
And that was one of the things that the Melee guys were saying about the knots, is that they were wanting to study the knots because they believe that they've either started the Malachor or have something to do with it because none of them suffer from it. That was one of the big things they kept saying was like, have you ever seen a knot that suffered from Malachor? And they're like, well, no. Well, why is that, you think?
Yeah, that seems like the same kind of logic like Salem witch trials.
Yeah.
Right, like because they're not infected, they must be the cause of it. Like that's not great logic, but okay.
Yeah. And that one dude, I can't remember what his name is, but that one dude who was like burning people at the stake when we first entered that location.
Aloysius?
Yeah. I ran back into him and tried to smooth talk him, but it didn't work. And then ended up having to fight some of his goons and he ran off. So
see him again,
I'm sure I'll have to find him again. But
it's kind of crazy that every time you go into that square now, there's the wild monster thing that's just like been burned alive and its corpse is just sitting there.
Yep.
Every time I see that, I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, it's terrifying to think that's what is happening here, like burning witches at the stake, but it's kind of a cool like centerpiece to that square.
It definitely gives off the Witcher vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
What's that square called? I think it's like the place of punishment or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely macabre. I'll put it that way. Yep. But unfortunately, that's all I got to talk about. But here's the thing: I put probably 4 hours into it. But I mean, it's
I did
a lot.
Do one other quest line. It was a side quest. It was under that header of Children of Tirfadi.
Okay.
It was about it. I picked it up randomly. I actually had no intention of completing the quest. It was a random guy on the street. So I just walked up to him and said, "Oh, hey, this guy seems like he wants to talk. Let's see what he has to say." And he's like, "Hey, I'm hoping you can help me. I'm a trader, and I've set up a little stall here, but the guards keep coming and stealing all my stuff."
Huh.
And I'm like, these freaking guards, man.
Yeah, right.
The city is like corrupt as hell. So I went over and I was like, all right, well, I'm thinking to myself, we know the captain of the guard here. He seems like a reasonable guy. Maybe someday I'll talk to him because I'm like, basically like I would do in any game. He's like, will you help me? And I said, yes, absolutely, even though I had no intention of helping him.
Not right now.
Not right now. But I still accepted it, and I essentially forgot about it for a little while until I happened to be talking to that captain of the guard again when I was doing Kurt's side quests, and I was looking for that recruit. And then this came up as a dialogue option of like, hey, there's a trader out there who's being harassed by the guard. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm already here. I might as well progress it, even if I'll forget this when I finally get back to it.
Hey, by the way, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell? And he's like, and I actually really appreciated the way the game handled this because a lot of times, like as a complete aside, I'm reading a book right now that I actually don't enjoy because so many of the decisions just seem illogical to me. Not like I wouldn't do them, but I feel like no human would do them. And it takes me out of it, and I'm like, none of this is believable because these actions aren't realistic or reasonable.
What's the book?
But it's called The September House.
Okay.
We'll see. Maybe it gets better in the end. But the counterpart to that was this interaction with the guard. I thought was exceedingly reasonable because basically I go to him and I'm like, what the hell? This guy is saying that he's being shaken down by the guards, and in my mind I'm adding in these are the same guards that have been harassing all the merchants. So what's going on here? And the captain, he says, look, I understand what you're saying, and in a normal situation, that, I would agree that that's bullshit. But in this instance, the reason that the guard is harassing him is because he doesn't have a license. If he just had a license, he'd be fine. So he's like, I can't stop my guard because they're actually just following the rules in this case.
Right.
They're not overly harassing him. They're just following the rules. But it was basically the fact that he was agreeing with me and giving me sort of a valid reason for why they were doing what they're doing. And he's like, I'll tell them to be more careful, but I can't tell them not to do their job. And so the quest progresses because I'm like, you know what? If what he needs is a license, I'll go get him a license.
Let's go get him a license.
Yeah, let's go get him a license. So then we have to go back to Constantine and say, hey, we need a license. So we get all that. We get the license. And then we go back to where he is, but he's not there. Or, no, he is there. He's there, and he's like, you know what? They just came back and stole all my stuff again. And I had my cousin bringing me a new shipment of goods. Well, they took him and they locked him up as well. Not only did they take my stuff, they took my cousin. So then I go back to the captain of the guard again, and I'm like, what the hell? He didn't have a license, but I told you I was going to get a license. And once again, I was like, oh, this is a good response from the captain, because he's like, the captain literally says, I should have known you would have gotten it when you said you would get it. I just, he still didn't have one, so the guard just, they just took him again and yada, yada, yada. They just continued doing what they were supposed to do. But the fact that he was like, oh, shit, my bad, I should have listened to you, I should have heard that you said you were going to go get this license, and I should have told them not to mess with him. And I'm like, you know what? That's a valid mistake. I don't know. I like the interactions with the guard, but so I'm like, all right, well, where the hell is this guy's cousin? Because I got a license, he can sell his stuff, but I need his cousin to get out of jail. And the captain goes, you know what? He's not actually in jail. We put him in the arena to fight for his life or something. Fight for freedom.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And all this guy was doing was literally bringing a shipment of goods, and they threw him into an arena to fight for his life. I'm like, this city is messed up.
Right.
So then I go down in the fighting arena is it's just off of the entrance from the basement of the bar. I mean, everything seems to happen there. The brothel's down there. The fighting arena's down there.
I ran into the brothel, but I didn't know what to do there, so I just left.
Yeah. So I basically went into the arena and did that. Luckily, I had just become a badass Desjardins, so I was able to survive in the arena. It was kind of tough. There was 3 or 4 people in there, but I was able to basically be the champion, and I think I fought with him and saved him, brought him back to his cousin, and now they are fully able to set up their little vendor stall in the street. And, it wasn't the deepest quest line, but I guess it was the writing for me. It felt like it rang true, and you could tell, like, the guards don't love the natives, so of course they're going to harass him a little bit. The captain of the guard is struggling with maintaining order over his unruly guards, but also trying to uphold the rules of the city. I kind of like that added bit of texture to the faction relations within.
It was a native guy. Now I get it. I have that quest. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It was a native guy. He was kind of bluish colored, and he had almost like a crown of branches.
Yes, I know who you're talking about now. I have not done that, but I do have it.
Yeah, not the deepest quest, but it was the kind of quest that really adds to a game like this for me because it adds to the texture of the world.
Right. That's one thing I will give this game is I feel like the writing's really solid.
Yeah.
And the voice acting, I think.
Yeah, I think the voice acting's pretty good. I like Petrus again.
Yeah.
But
well, there you go.
And getting to know the characters better as the last few hours of this game have been really focused on the companion quests, and that has enhanced my enjoyment of this game, I would say.
Then I need to do some then. Because so far I've did Sioris.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so far I think hers has been I'll say the least interesting, but I do find it kind of fascinating the way it interweaves with the main story quests.
I think all of this will eventually go into the main story. I think.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, we have an email. It says, howdy, gents. First of all, I think Drew is right that there are some gaps in the lore. This is my third playthrough, and I don't recall where they ever explained the source of magic. Although the game has some interesting lore elements, it's definitely not as fleshed out as other series like Dragon Age. Also, Matt is exactly right that this is one of those games where you get out what you put into it. Yes, side quests and how you handle things do have an impact on how the game plays out. Like I said in my last email, I feel like this is more of a diplomat simulator. Each side quest may serve three purposes. 1, each quest is an engagement opportunity that impacts diplomatic or party member relations, both positively and negatively. 2, completing side quests opens opportunities for further side quests later on and can create different available options in main quests. 3, they can have an impact on what type of story climax you receive. To clarify, both of you can end up with different climax situations prior to the end of the game. Additionally, how you handle the game climax can also have an effect on your ending choice options. Whether you complete your party loyalty missions can also have an impact on the game climax. The structure is one of those things I ended up liking the most about the game. Instead of the Mass Effect 3 ending choice, the game can end up very different for each of you depending on your choices and story climax. With that being said, there are some endings that will remain available to both of you regardless of how you play the game, so it is still possible that you could end up with the same ending. The end state is more elaborate than Mass Effect 3 and Call of Cthulhu, but not as nearly as wide as Witcher 2. Looking forward to seeing you all end up with your different results. Till next time, Chad.
Yeah, I really appreciate some of those comments because it's interesting to understand or even think about where the game is going. It feels definitely more organic. I always think back to Infamous 1, which I adore, but it was always exceedingly clear you're going to make choice A or choice B.
Yes.
Here, a lot of these things that have incremental changes on relations with these different factions seems like it's much less clear the impact of any given decision. And it's more, your collective choices will end up having an impact. But I don't know. Right now, I feel like I'm at a bit of a high point in this game in terms of my feelings on it. I feel like the combat has just gotten, I wouldn't say necessarily easier, but I feel like I've gotten more attuned to it. I like the characters. I haven't put any time into a main story mission now in probably 7 or 8 hours, which is wild to me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm eager to see where it goes. It doesn't maybe surprise me. I guess the one thing that I that might have made this game go over the top and be like an all-time great is if it had the kind of tightness of mythology and lore that that we always ascribe to Supernatural, right? Like it did that one thing so well as a show that if this game could have done that with all the other elements that are at least good enough, it could have been something really special. And it can still be really great without that, but if it doesn't have that, in some ways I don't want to be spoiled, but in other ways it's good not to hope for that, because it might have made the end of this game a bit of a letdown if you don't get some of those reasons and explanations and the history of magic and in how exactly it works.
Yeah,
I think now if I know not to expect it, I'll focus my thoughts elsewhere.
I mean, yeah, that's because the Source Dose just kind of adds flavor to the whole thing. I think this can still ride on its own.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes. Especially, like, I'm a sucker for, choices actually mattering in a game.
Yeah.
So see how far it deviates. I highly doubt it'll beat Alpha Protocol, of course.
Yeah.
But nothing can, it seems like. But yeah, we'll see. I know this is a shorter episode. That's okay. I mean, we did make some progress. Just gotta bear down. I'll be honest with you. This stuff coming up, and I try to put in some time. So we'll get there though eventually. We'll be finishing up Greedfall at least before the baby comes. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, thank you, Chad, for that email. If you would like to send an email, it's drew@ztgd.com. You can also tweet to us. I am at DMLFury. Matt is at REMGS. And the podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. Let me check the Phoenix Down. I got nothing. Okay, cool. Just checking. But yeah, I think that's it for us this week. Thank you all for listening. Hope you guys have a great week. Until next time, I am Drew.
And I'm Matt.
And we are out of here. We will be back next week with the continuation of Greedfall.